Hey designers, have you ever struggled to really understand a problem or to really put your finger on what the core issue was and how to solve it? Well, in this video, we're going to look at the idea of problem analysis and give you a few tools to improve your ability to understand problems. Hey there, I'm John Dial and I'm here to help you improve your design and creative abilities and set you up for success. Let's dive into this one. So, problem understanding, problem analysis, problem definition. These are one of the core fundamental skills of a designer. If you're not understanding problems, you're not actually acting like a designer. And if you want to know more about that, you can check out my other video where I explore the 4 quadrants of design, and problem understanding is one of those quadrants. Now, problem understanding helps us guide what we're doing. Designers don't just make stuff. Designers don't just produce things. We actually try to produce in a way of solving a problem. And often that production of a solution helps us understand the problem better. And in that production, we usually fail and find things that aren't working properly, and that's okay. That's part of the way that design works, is that we create solutions that don't fully work, and then we make them better and hopefully iterate and land on something that's going to solve the problem for us. But we don't really know what's working, what is a solution, until we understand the problem. And those two things sort of work hand in hand. But I want to talk about problem understanding because without a deep understanding of what the problem is and what the causes are and what the symptoms are, it's difficult to fully know when we've actually gotten to the root of a problem. And really, we may never fully understand a problem, and that's okay. There's a lot of research that points to design actually solving problems that aren't fully understood. And that is actually one of the beauties of design, is that we don't deal with well understood problems, we deal with poorly understood problems. And those problems continue to be poorly understood often throughout the design process. But it should be getting clearer and clearer. So how do we make it clearer? Well, that's what we're going to talk about now. So oftentimes we may see a problem, or actually the effect or a symptom of the problem. And we can jump from a symptom to a problem. If my knee hurts, that is not actually a problem. That's a symptom of a problem that's inside my knee. Or that's a symptom of a problem that's inside my body. And I don't want to just treat and deal with the pain. I want to treat and deal with whatever the root cause is. So in design methodology then, whenever we see a problem, or we see the surface of a problem, or what we call a manifestation of a problem, we can deal with that as a symptom. So if we just take something very basic like a sign-in screen, if people are unable to sign in and we see metrics pointing to people not signing in, that's not a problem. That's a symptom of the problem. We are trying to understand what actually causes that and get to the root of what the problem actually is. Symptoms have causes, and causes are from problems. So we would look at the sign-in form, we would look at what's there and maybe begin doing some analysis to understand. We'd probably bring in some user research, and let me tell you, you need to do user research to really understand what's going on. You could start doing user interviews, or we could start putting some deeper metrics on that page to understand what people are clicking and why they're clicking it. We could look for error states and different things that are actually happening behind the scenes on the server. Maybe there's some data that would indicate where a problem might be, or some of the causes that are leading to people not signing in. And this is just a very basic example, but as you begin to unfold and look at what's going on, you can now see the symptoms and start tacking on what the causes are, and then maybe discover the root cause of the problem. Perhaps the UI actually doesn't even have a sign-in button. And that might be actually a problem. You could probably design a sign-in form without one, but a lot of people really like the security of that button. So perhaps they are entering their information, their credentials, and never actually signing in. Maybe they're not actually able to authenticate because there's some server problem. So before we actually jump to solving for symptoms, we need to deeply analyze what those things are and what's contributing to those symptoms so that we can actually solve for them. Now, one tool that I often like to use is sort of a tree analysis. And so you can start with what the symptoms are. What are you seeing? What are the pain points that are experienced? And why was it that this was even elevated to be addressed in the first place? What caught your attention about this symptom and really drove you to begin thinking this might be a problem? Well, as you begin to unfold and unpack that, you can layer things on. So let's imagine then that all of your symptoms are floating up top. You can even begin to map these in some sort of cluster or word cloud, or just start writing them even on a whiteboard or a piece of paper. Then you might begin to understand what some of the causes are. You might actually take those symptoms and begin saying, well, we actually see that there's a server error on 3% of sign-ins. Okay, that's a cause that might be there. Or you might see that, you know what, under a heuristic analysis, we saw that the button wasn't a clear enough affordance for people. Okay, that could be a cause. And you begin diagramming what all these causes are, bringing in your user research, your analysis, and all the data that you have, and begin then to synthesize what the core problem is. And eventually you might land on a very simple definition of what the problem is, and then you can begin to attack it. Every problem is different, and every problem has its unique circumstances. Now, you may even begin to see an interaction of problems where you may be even to separate them out and deal with them individually in a more productive way. So, as you think about dealing with problems, be sure that we're looking at symptoms, causes, versus actual root problems. And this is going to give you even more power and more clarity in the way that you design and create solutions to solve those problems. So why would we spend all this time looking at trying to understand what the problem is? Well, what happens is if you begin to solve for surface level issues, or you begin to solve for the symptoms and not the problem, that problem is going to continue to manifest itself more and more and more. You're actually going to be layering in more complexity to your experiences and to your products if you're not careful and if you're only solving for the symptoms. You'll begin to put in these little barriers and small fixes and iterations that don't actually solve the core problem. So it's far more expensive to spend all of your time sprint after sprint after sprint or iteration after iteration addressing the symptoms, not the problems, because you actually add in complexity to your solution space in a way that's destructive, in a way that makes your product less usable. I don't know if you've ever logged into sort of a digital product and there's just a mess everywhere. Well, that kind of experience can often be because you're addressing the symptoms and not the problems. And that's what we want to avoid in our solutions. That's what we want to avoid as designers, is overly complex solutions that don't actually address the problem. So over time, as you're analyzing what the problem is, you can hone in and you can refine where you're actually going to focus your design efforts so that the solution can cut like a hot knife through that problem butter and just nail it. So this is why it's important for us to focus on problems, because we want to create the best possible solution that fits the problem that we're addressing. And really, that's the core job of a designer, is to look at what that problem is and create the best, most elegant, simple possible solution that's targeted and will actually resolve the pains and the problems of our people. So thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button. It tells me a little bit about what you are enjoying, what's helpful for you, and hopefully you can leave a comment and tell me how you're going to use this in your next few projects. If you want to get more content on a regular basis, be sure to subscribe to my channel because I've got lots more topics planned. If you're interested in more about problems, you can watch this video. And if you want to know more about design in general and grow your career, check out this video too. I appreciate all the support and thanks and comments and likes and hearts and subscriptions. Thank you so much for watching. Go understand a problem better today so you can make something awesome.